there's no growth, right? We have a solution to this, and it's pretty simple. Analyze all the customer data, and it will tell you where your customers are, what do they want, and how you can reach them and convert better. For example, the graph that is present over here, you can very easily see, but after the extensive use of analytics, customer analytics, the performance of the corporates has increased heavily. The profits have grown by 93%. The sales grew by 82%. The return on investment rose by 115%. So this is a clear picture wherein we see the use of a CRM, how the help it brings. The last thing that I would like to say here is that efforts in the right direction will help you do things that will bear substantial results. So yeah, it's a win-win in any case, right? That's all from my end. I think the next person would continue, and that's Shanur, and he would be speaking on the topic e-commerce and e-businesses. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Afnan. Well, we all aware of the fact that how the digital information technologies brought a revolution in each and every aspects of our life. So the same fact happens with the business. It molds business into a new form called e-business. If we see the definition of e-business, it means that doing business activities, that is buying, selling, and exchanging of goods and products or information, that is via internet. Now, if we look at some of its advantages, then first is it is more effective and very quick in responsiveness. Next is it is more flexible and than its traditional form of business. The third point is that there is no time foundations such in the e-business. It can be operated 24 into 7 in any place, from any place at anywhere. And the next point is that it is less time consuming than the traditional form of business. Next slide, please. Now, with more R&D and new innovations, e-business branches itself into new subsets like quick commerce and businesses. If we see M business is basically a slight different from e-business because it involves movable devices like the laptops, cell phones, smartphones, tablets, while the e-business involves mainly through the computers. Now, there is an age of M business over the e-business because every age person's using it as it is less expensive. Second point is that it is more handy and convenient to use because there is no such technical knowledge required to operate such devices. According to an estimate that around 622 million Indians users have smartphones, which means that there is a huge potential for the growth of M businesses. So that's all from my side. Now I request Asava to continue with EP. Thank you.
Thank you, Shana. Okay, so extranet packages, or we can say extended intranet packages. If we broke down the word extranet, we get extra, which is in the organization's case that means anything crucial to your organization but existing outside of it. Such entities include vendors, suppliers, and clients. With this in mind, then the extranet package is just a highly secure private network specifically designed to allow these private networks that leverages internet technology and public telecommunication system to share part of a business information or operations to a secure system with suppliers, vendors, partners, customers, or other businesses. An extranet is often considered part of a company's intranet extended to authorize users outside of the organization. It provides control access to authorized people outside of the company. Much like the intranet, it allows for private communication, documentation, and knowledge sharing and transfers between crucial external partners and an organization. Next slide, please. Okay, so the uses of extranet. Extranets act as a system. Extranets act as a system of engagement for your business's prospective clients. Just as intranets can increase employee engagement, extranets expand to engage individuals outside of your organization too. Generally, organizations will use extranets for customer service by distributing personalized information to customers in a more efficient way, training and educating for new employees, and communication and connecting with customers in more controlled setting, easing project management tasks by providing a workspace with access to common online documents for teams. Thank you so much. Now I would like to call Mohammad Yasir for continuation of the presentation.
Thank you, Asaba. So this is Mohammad Yasir, and I'm going to present about groupware technology. So basically, groupware is a class of computer softwares that helps members of a group work together. Basically, we have seen in the pandemic situation that when offices and the other organizations were closed, so every people were doing their jobs by sitting at home, and that time groupware technologies has made it very everything so easy that we can do everything from even our home and from the locate remote location. So groupware basically allows group members to communicate clearly with each other, to coordinate their work, and to collaborate with each other. Communication basically involves sharing information, right? And it can be through data conferencing or chatbot or forums discussion or video conference or voice conference or e-meeting system. And it can be of two types, either synchronous or asynchronous. If we are talking about synchronous, it means that we can do our work at the same time, right? All the employees of a company or an organization are doing that particular task at the same time. And on asynchronous group where we can do our work at the different times. Now moving to the next slide. Okay, so organizations are using groupware to for quality improvement, right? With this, a company or an organization can reduce their time and can reduce their transportation cost, and it is very cost effective, and it is used to for better customer service, for support for total quality management, and it allows fewer meetings, right? Through this, we can reduce the number of meetings, and it is also you used by organizations after seeing the increased competitions. So this is all. Now I would like to invite Kritika for the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasser, for engaging such a wonderful session. Good afternoon, Madam, Sir, and all the lovely people out there. This is Pratika Agrawal, and I will be continuing with the conclusions and key learnings that has been withdrawn from this case. So let's continue. First of all, conclusion. In the previous slides, you came across various components such as CRM, supply chain management, ERP, etc., which are playing a significant role in signifying the process of business for organizations. CRM, abbreviated as Customer Relationship Management, is a component of service that helps resolving the issues faced by a consumer in a product. In addition to this, ERP, which automates business processes and provides insights, is playing a significant role in maintaining the competitiveness of leadership in the global market. With the use of IT, transnational organizations, which are defined as the entities that operate beyond national boundaries with the support of one nation, are able to capture the international market using search engine optimization and online platforms. We all know that in pandemic, when the pandemic hit the world in December 2019, and with this, a lot of companies who were working in offline mode started facing losses in business due to lockdown. Moreover, a lot of people were made to quit their job. This brought the local and international market down into losses. To recover these losses, businesses were established in online mode. And with this, the implementation of IT took a different growth. Here, IT not only reshaped their businesses to a different level, but also generated the platform for new growth. And with this, there were a there was a flow there was a flow with the current advancements. Moreover, many people saw this as an opportunity. Am I audible? Or like I think there's some issue with my.
No, you're perfectly audible.
Please go on.
Okay. Moreover, many people saw this as an opportunity and started their own business, which led to the wave of entrepreneurship and further augmented the use of IT. Moving ahead, I will now discuss the key learnings that my team and I have imbibed from this study. These are number one, incorporation of IT components and applications into global business platforms can enrich and enhance global business. This statement can be analyzed with the example of cloud computing, which is high in demand, and organizations are introducing it to channelize the supply chain management. Number two, virtual organization as a strategic organizational structure is a solution for globalization. Number three, with the proper implementation of IT, one can transform the business from an offline mode to an online mode, and with this, he or she will have the opportunity to expand it globally. This statement can be analyzed with the example of pandemic, in which a lot of unicorns came into existence. Moving ahead with the references from where the content has been picked up. That's all from us today. Thank you, Madam, Sir, and all the people out there for coordinating and giving their precious time to us. We are now open for questionnaires. If anyone has any query, doubt, or anyone wants to share his or her viewpoint or wants to discuss anything, then he or she is most welcome. Thank you.
Afaq, if I'm not wrong, you talked about bringing structural changes.
आज तो थोड़ा बहुत चाहिए
Um, I think Anma is asking something.
Yes, there was one question from a student.
Yes,
Can you
ma'am,
repeat?
I'm sorry for the disturbance. Actually, what I was asking Afaq was that Afaq, if I'm not wrong, you were talking about bringing structural changes along with digitization, right?
Right.
Yeah. So my question for you is, what structural changes are needed to be made in an organization in order to adopt digitization with open arms?
Yeah, thank you, Arma. So basically, can I proceed?
Yes, yes, please answer.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am. So, an organization should adopt technologies like there are various technologies for different purposes. Like for managing back office, an organization can implement ERP, but it is not for every kind of organization. And for implementing ERP, it is not for SMEs businesses. Only large businesses or multinational business can implement such kind of technology like ERP. And there are different kind of technologies like managing customer relation, also known as CRM. It can be implemented by any kind of organization, whether it is a small business or a large business. And there are many CRM software like Zoho CRM and Salesforce and something like that. There are so much variety in the market, and it is available at a different cost structure. Even a small business, a 6 month old startup even can afford this kind of CRM and other CRM like supply chain management. It is basically used for those businesses which are providing some physical goods so that they can use supply chain management in their transportation of their service. Like supply chain management can be used by already using by e-commerce marketplace like Amazon. They used to deliver hundred and thousands of packages on the daily basis, and you know very well, sometimes we ordered something online and it delivered to our doorstep within 24 hours to 48 hours. It is all possible because of supply chain management. Any other question? And let me know if I am able to give you proper answer to your
No,
question.
Afaq, it's a good answer. You've attempted well. Shiraz, you can ask if you have a question.
Afnan, you mentioned that the most important part for cross-border, cross-border trade is trust. But there is a line in this passage. There is a
So,
line in
your voice is breaking a little bit. Can you please pardon? You mean to say that there is, please pardon?
See, you mentioned that trust is very important for trade. Didn't you mention that?
Yeah.
Trust. But in this passage in which you were given, there is a line which says integrated information system is an essential prerequisite for global business operation. Optimization. I'm sorry, optimization. How do you defend your trust? How do you defend that trust is more important than integrated information system?
Okay, so thank you for the question, sir. Sir, definitely I agree with your point that integrated system is very necessary, right? But the thing is, what do we do of systems when there's no trust between people? What do you do of what do you do of any kind of system when you do not trust each other? The first thing that comes when you take up a business, when you plan to do a business together, the first thing that comes up is trust. If you do not trust the other person, you're not going ahead with the business. All your systems are sitting back in place, they are there, but until and unless there's a yes from your end, there's something that says yes, nothing is of use.
Okay. Nice.
Afnan, well answered, very well answered. Technology cannot replace, because unless and until you have trust, you will not be sharing information. So very well
Exactly.
answered. I
Thank
just have
you.
one question. What is a groupware? Somebody mentioned groupware.
Group where
Yes,
Yasir,
ma'am.
it was Yasir.
Um,
Uh,
Ma'am, Groupware is basically a software designed to work together within an organization. If the employees or the people are living in the remote areas and they are not able to come physically to the office to work with the other people, so they exchange their ideas, their thoughts, and emails and datas, and through through video conferencing, they talk about the work
okay,
through
Yasir.
through a
Thank you. It
particular
was a
software.
group presentation. Good presentation also. Clarity in answering also. Now, can we move on to the... Thank you. Sadia's group, isn't it, Sadia? Now we can have Riza's group presenting. Their topic is resistance to change, technology implementation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, can we have the next group? You all may log out, please.
sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, are we audible?
Yes, you may begin. You're audible.
Okay. So, good afternoon, all. I, Shama Fatima, along with my group members Anamika Dikshit, Riza Hayat, Muhammad Zaid, Muhammad Hamad Hashmi, Zubair Khan, Tasfeen Ghazal, Zumair Uddin Khan, Muhammad Shawez Khan, and Yasir Ahmed, are here to present on the topic Resistance to Change, Technological Implementation in the Public Sector by Maria Vakula. Now, I would like to invite Muhammad Zaid for the elaboration of the topic.
Uh, Thank you, Shama. Good afternoon, everyone. So, as far as the elaboration of the topic is concerned, there arises one simple question, that what is change? So, any act or process through which something becomes different is considered to be as change. Now, we are dealing with organizational change here. So, what is it? Organizational change refers to the actions in which a company alters a major component of its curriculum, such as the infrastructure or the underlying technologies. Now, it can either be positive or negative. Thus, it opens up to enormous aversions in being implemented. Now, another question that arises is as to why organizational change faces resistance. So, as we all know, that nothing is constant except the change. Change is inevitable, and it has to be introduced from time to time for keeping ourselves up to date. But its implementation is not an easy task, and the initiators need to cross many hurdles to overcome them. So, there arises several reasons behind the resistance. Number one, fear of change in the methods of work. So, what happens is people generally find it convenient to continue doing something as they have always been doing. Making them learn something new is very difficult. Number two, fear of change in working. So, changes bring alterations in persons' duties, powers, and influences. Hence, the people who will get negatively affected always resist. Number three, fear of working with new people and new relationships. Now, people who are adamant on maintaining customs instead of taking risks will always resist the change. Now, fourth and the last one is fear of redundancy. Now, surprise and fear of unknown, that what will happen, will the change turn out to be an asset or a liability, also strengthens the resistance. Now, I would like to invite Riza Hayat to present the overview of the case study. Thank you.
Thank you, Zad. Good afternoon, everyone. As to develop the understanding of the entire case, I would like to elucidate it in a nutshell. The assigned case is of a public owned company which decided to implement a project of IT system by changing its work processes and practices. How the employees and their unions reacted to these changes are the key considerations. Now, let's talk about the company which was involved. A public sector undertaking which aimed to process public employees' retirement applications. It is bureaucratic in nature. It had a fusion of intellects. Promotions are seniority and networking based, and along with that, lack of trust between the top management and employees, low pay scale, delayed work completion, etc., were the basic characteristics associated with it. Now, let's see how the idea for the change arose. Now, it was basically expressed for the sake of updating organization services. Secondly, for transforming all the files and archives of customers into the electronic ones. And finally, to enhance the personal cognitive ability by training its people. Now let's look it up on how the plotting was done to implement the change. For introducing the IT system, the top management decided to call two separate meetings. The first one to identify more suitable consultants and technology providers to effectively implement the project, and the second one inviting open participation from all the employees. But instead of focusing on the positive impacts of the change, both the meetings ended up with tensions, arguments, and negative climates. The project was, however, finally implemented, but even after 3 months, the attitude of the employees remained the same. Evident from the arguments like, I am very close to retirement, so it's not for me. I cannot stay over time to learn how to use it, and like that. Now let's look it up that why it was opposed. The first reason was that the technological implementation facilitated goal setting and performance appraisal, as it's obvious, and thus troubled those employees who didn't perform well. The new system created confusion and stress among the workers. Older employees build with inferiority complex. The role of employees union in propagating non-participation, and finally the lack of trust between the management and its employees, along with the organization's poor change history, also favorably contributed towards the same. Now, what happened at the end? What was the outcome? Here are a few points that worth consideration after the change was finally implemented, despite these continuous and enforcing resistances. The most critical one is the top management disapproved the training budget and suggested for providing on-the-job training by the existing employees. Second point could be almost after 18 months of implementation, it was decided to keep the old system in parallel with the new one to overcome the low-key feeling and to avoid tensions between the acquainted and the ignorant. The delay in work completion remained as it was before, and as reported, the system was filled with various technical mistakes and its implementation was also improper. In a roundabout manner, we can say that the change was time consuming, quite expensive, not as per the expectations, and created a negative impact on the employees' morale. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Shama to raise the questions which are there in the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Riza. Now the question is, what are the major sources of resistance? Answer to be presented by Muhammad Hamad Hashmi.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Now, talking about major sources of resistance. The first one was technology will facilitate goal setting and performance management, which means there were a number of employees who didn't perform well and caused delays in dealing with recently upgraded applications. These people justified their behavior by blaming other departments for inefficiencies and delays. Up till now, it was not possible to measure the efficiency of an employee. But with this system, it will be easy to measure the quantity of daily processed applications, which will create problem for those who choose not to perform. The second one was new system created a confusion and stress as some employees understand its benefits, but still they're resisting to it because either they didn't have the competencies or they didn't believe in themselves enough to start learning them. And it was more apparent in older employees. And the third one was the role of union for not facilitating the implementation process as they decided to campaign against the change and organize group meetings to persuade people not to participate. Their main argument was that implementing technology may prove to be beneficial, but its use should be rewarded as extra lines in their salary. This was rejected by top management as the project itself was very expensive. And the last one was that there was lack of trust between management and its employees. Because the organization was characterized by poor change history, which means that many changes were initiated, but they were not implemented or half implemented at the end. As a result, the majority of people didn't believe in the change. Now, thank you.
Thank you, Ahmad. Now the next question is, what are the strategies do you suggest to deal with this resistance? Answer to be presented by Yasir Ahmed.
Yasir, kindly unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Shama. Good afternoon, all. We suggest the following strategy: upgradation of HR department. Lack of professional in an HR department is mentioned in case only one employee is working and there is no periodic schedule for training and development to keep preparing employee for gradual change in process as per need. It is suggested the team of HR professionals should be hired to overcome this shortfall. Upgradation of hiring process. Narrow-sighted hiring criteria led to hiring inefficient employees with limited or no IT skills. Top management neglected the frequent recommendation from HR to invest in training and development, putting the organization in a situation where it's not prepared to accept the change. Instead, it is suggested that a broad-sighted hiring criteria should be used for hiring. Create channel for communication. Lack of communication between employee and top management have created an environment for distrust and suspicion. It is suggested that members from union should have been involved in planning and decision making. Next, implement discipline and code of conduct at workplace. Discipline and control at workplace was found absent in organization because it failed to control rumors about change, leading to discouraging employee to participate. It is suggested that strict disciplinary action should be taken against such employees. Grievance and query redressal system should be created. Systems to address the query and tool for motivation was found absent in organization. Top management didn't come up to answer questions like how this technology can help users to reduce their effort to complete work and what benefit they could get and position they could reach before they retire. It is suggested to develop the channel of communication within the organization. Effort should be made to motivate. Organization failed to create a motivating environment for old workers to learn IT skills. It would be easier for old workers to learn if professional of their age would have helped them to acquire IT skills. Also, paying them a small allowance would make the learning experience more enjoyable. Include opinion from previous team. Instead of short-sighted approach used by top management for planning, strategic thinking could have benefited the organization more. The plan and changes proposed by previous management should have been considered before investing effort in the new plan. Change in job role should be offered. Top management should search for in-house talent available with them among workers to come up and lead the training program instead of hiring professional. In this way, some worker may feel happy with the change in the nature of the job and rest may feel more relaxed and comfortable to learn from them. Gradual change should be implemented. And finally, gradual rather than sudden change in process should be preferred to avoid major disruption. Sudden announcement of timetable to implement the project instead of gradual upgradation to technology led to chaos. Instead, it is suggested that change be implemented in phases rather than sudden. Thank you all. Over to Shama.
Shama, please unmute yourself.
Okay. Now the next question is, what was the leadership role in this case? Answer to be presented by Zumairuddin Khan.
Hello, good afternoon to all. So the management team took a long time for the change in the company They had arranged the supervisors for the training of the employees about computer knowledge. They were thinking that if we start the training for the employees, then it should be easy to use computers for all the employees. They didn't try to force the employees for the change. Rather, they were using strategies for getting the change only. Instead, they had to know about those employees who actually needed the computer knowledge. Then they need to plan. Then they need to plan for the training and start the training for them from the employees who are working in the company already. The management team had to reward with incentives for the employees who were improving themselves by learning and knowing about the technology. They had to prepare the employees for the change by showing them the advantages of the change. After this, management team ought to start the advanced training for all the employees, and after that, uh, it they after the office hours, and it will be free for all the employees. The management team should have had coordinated between the welfare of the employees and the company both. Thank you.
Thank you, Zumer. Now, while discussing our case study, we came across another case that is of Lufthansa, the overview of which is to be presented by Anamika Dixit.
Thank you, Shama. Good afternoon, everyone. So, when we talk about Lufthansa, it is an airline company. In 1991, Lufthansa was almost bankrupt. But in the next 8 years, the company changed its position from the brink of bankruptcy to becoming one of the world's largest and profitable airline companies and a founding member of the Star Alliance, which aspired to become the world's leading aviation group. This is a German company and its headquarters is in Germany. Lufthansa has undergone a fundamental ongoing change its approach relies on people. Core elements of its strategy involve providing space for reflection and dialogue despite the crisis pressure, building networks of change, actors, and creating durable platform for emotional mobilization and reflection on action. So the first question that arises is analyze the role of HRM and union in transforming Lufthansa. So, when we talk about the role of HRM and union, first we'll say that the role of HRM is that they have created a sense of urgency among the employees as well as the management because in the situation of bankruptcy it is very important that people should have think about the urgency of the time. The second is they have built a guided coalition, which means that there should be proper trust among the employees. The third point is they have formed a strategic vision and providing initiatives to all. The last role is that they have enlisted a volunteer army, and in Lufthansa's case, they have proved it right by starting certain programs like Program 93 and also the climbs 94. The next, when we comes to the role of union, the first role is they have always participated in the company meetings. Second, they have built a very good employee management relationship which helped a lot, which they helped them a lot. The last role of union is that they have always chosen collective bargaining, which means that they have focused on one of the principles of Henry Fuel, which says that we should always use we instead of I. And here, in Lufthansa's case, the union always considered the profit of the company instead of their own benefit. Thank you. Over to you, Shama.
Thank you, Anamika. Now, the next question is make a comparison between Lufthansa and your case study regarding the role of HRM and union in change implementation. Answer to be presented by Taskeen Ghazal.
Thank you, Shama. Good afternoon, everyone. So, in this case, we have to do a comparison between Lufthansa and our case regarding the role of HRM and union in change management. So, the first, I'm starting with role of HRM. The first one is supportive role. So, in Lufthansa, they provide the backup for the implementation of a staff cutoff, but in our case we didn't see that kind of support. The second one is retention. So in Lufthansa they followed the policy of soft rationalization, but in our case they were not bothered about employees retention. The third is training and development. So in Lufthansa we all know that training and development is a key of employee motivation, and Lufthansa's were very much aware of this fact and used it judicially. But in our case the management or the manager lacked this capability. Now, the most important is managerial resistance to change, or the managing resistance to change. So they in Lufthansa, the management captured and leveraged the passion and positive emotions surrounding a change from the very beginning. But in our case study, they failed to persuade their employees and the changes that they applied. Now, similarly, communication with employees was very much in flow in Lufthansa, but not in our case. So we can see that with the effective role of HRM, only in 8 years, the company had gone from the brink of bankruptcy to becoming one of the most profitable airline company. But in our case, the situation downgraded further and increased the chaotic situation. Now, the role of union. So the first one is management union relationship. In Lufthansa, they were a healthy relationship. But in our case, it was a toxic one. Now, the second is negotiation. So, in Lufthansa, the way of negotiating with the trade union is exemplary for their relationship, as it was based on trust. And in our case, it can't be seen. There was nothing like a negotiation thing. Now, the loyalty. So, we can see that the kind of loyalty that emerged in Lufthansa make it possible to achieve the significant wage concessions that we have seen in the case. But in our case study, the management, the union asked for the price hike, and the situation gone to the worse. Now, the fourth one is effective communication. Again, communication is a very important part, and in Lufthansa, they used it very judicially. There were two-way communication between the employees, and that leads to the final success. But in our case, the management again created problems, and there was a chaotic situation again. So we can see that with the continuous input of management and the effort of the trade union, the initial reservation has turned into a responsible commitment to a joint challenge. All this happened in a company which was earlier known for its labor dispute and tensions. So it was the case of Lufthansa. But when it comes to our case, the union decided to campaign against the change, and they organized group meetings against the management. Thank you. Over to Shama.
Thank you, Tasneem. Now the next question is identify success and failure factors related to change implementation in both cases. Answer to be presented by Mohammad Zaid.
Thank you, Shama. So, in Lufthansa's case, we observed that during change implementation, they managed to avoid the potential reasons that could have contributed to the failure of change process and hence succeeded in their attempt. Now, various factors that we came across were number one, relying on one's own strengths in dealing with the crisis. So, they relied on external consultants only for few selected issues, such as outsourcing strategies and coaching of certain top executives. While with regard to the core of the change, Lufthansa relied on its own abilities. Second is providing space for reflection and dialogue despite the crisis pressure. So, town meetings became a prototype of the Lufthansa dialogue culture. Now, what usually happens is often organizations go in for hectic activity when crisis is visible. Careful and thoughtful discussion and reflection are considered as a waste of time. What counts is doing something fast. But they provided time out. Their workshops permitted thinking, reflection, and discussion that led to thoughtful action rather than panicky action for action's sake. Third, building networks of change actors. So Lufthansa's change process were driven and managed decisively by a strong network of change actors. In order to convince managers and employees for their stretching goals, they conducted several workshops and meetings, and this was done in order to let them live through their own process, feel the threat and the urgency, and not simply inform them of the facts and appropriate strategy which they had to implement. The fourth reason is mental change and emotional mobilization. So they were aware that sustainable change depends crucially on mobilizing and developing invisible drivers of processes in an organization. During the turnaround, they tried to demonstrate that at first, we have to reach the emotional mobilization before rational mobilization becomes possible at all. So basically, hard success through soft process. And the fifth one is fostering intensive personal learning by top management. Now, intensive personal learning by top management itself usually starts with the realization that it is the part of the problem. Its executives engage some outside counseling to mirror and confront top decision makers, including themselves. Now, coming to the factors related to our own case study, there were, there were several reasons as to why they failed to implement the change successfully. Number one, neglecting emotional responses. Now, changing the status quo is difficult, and many people will have emotional reactions to anything that upsets their routine. This is a natural and inevitable response. Brushing it off will only lead to stronger resistance. As such, change makers must be prepared to manage these emotions and move people towards acceptance of the change. Considering our case, no measure to overcome this problem was taken. Second, lack of trust. Now, employees of this organization were not at good terms with the top management. They felt that their contribution is not valued and are not duly paid. So, the union also didn't facilitate the implementation process. Rather, they decided to campaign against the change, all because of trust issues. Number three, unrealistic timelines. They couldn't find a balance between creating a sense of urgency and allowing time to transition. Now, forcing changes too quickly and cutting on making adjustments always leads to its failure. Number four, poor communication. Now, when you talk at people as opposed to with people, you are bound to get resistance to change. Small group discussions, one on one meetings, and methods for gathering feedback were not given much importance here. Now, one should understand that when you appeal to individual concerns, you increase their engagement. People want to know how the change will benefit them. But in this case, no such measure was taken to win the confidence of their employees. Number fifth, they followed a bureaucratic process. Now, it often brings separation between top, middle, and bottom into open, and so does not produce the planned results. And so was the case here. They didn't invest in winning others for the change or give others the scope to discover, rather, push them to accept the change. Thank you. Now, over to you, Shama.
Thank you, Zad. Now the next question is, please evaluate the role of consultant in this case and analyze what you would have done in a different way. Answer to be presented by Zubair Khan.
Thank you, Shama. Good afternoon, all. Let's move on to the answer. Evaluation of consultant team can be classified as lack of clarity. Consultants organize meeting for collecting information, but they didn't explain the whole process to the employees, which could have provided them a clear vision about how they will be able to use this IT software. And this results in the lack of clarity, lack of trust. Now, second one is frequent visit. The frequent meetings of the consultant team with the employees has created some negative comments, and this has happened because the consultant team was not making employees aware of the benefit of using the IT software. Now, the last one is two main problems. The consultant team faces mainly two problems. One is the huge delays because of the union blocking their way of collecting vital information and data, and second one is resistance to change. That is direct or indirect refusal for cooperation. Now, moving on the second part of the answer, we as a consultant team provide would have done these actions. First, communicate the need for change. In the company, the problem is revolving around low productivity. For example, in some cases, citizens' requests are processed in 2 or 3 months, and several other issues like mistakes, rudeness, and long queues are also present. Second, made awareness of why the change was being made and its benefits. We would have explained the whole process to the employees so that they can get the clarity of how they will be made familiar to use this IT software and the benefits they avail by using it. Third, engaging senior leaders as active and visible support of the change. We would have dealt with the problem of huge delays caused by the union by having the senior leaders as active and visible support of the change. Now, last but not the least, recruiting support from human resource manager as advocates for the change. We dealt with the problem of resistance to change with the help of human resource manager by making the employees believe that they will be capable of using IT software after they get training, and their work will be done easily, efficiently, and in less time, which also results in their promotion. Now, I request Anamika to present the key takeaways.
Thank you, Zumair. The important points that we have learned from this case is first, the resistance to change meaning can be defined as a major obstacle in the way of development with new technology and methodologies. Change in the techniques and organizational structure comes at regular intervals. However, with pre-existing methods, individuals become reluctant to learn and implement the new technologies, new techniques, bringing in a resistance to change. The second point is people resist change because they fear consequences. Change means learning new habit and facing challenging situations. Learning new skills come with certainty, with being able to master those skills. The next point is change in methods and techniques come with a change in power, responsibilities, as well as influence. Organizational resistance to change comes in from people negatively affected by the changes implemented. The fourth point is insecurity, laziness, and lack of creative approach make people cling to the pre-existing customs, thereby resisting changes. The last the last key takeaway is that the role of employees union also plays a major role in tuning employees behavior either for or against the organization, as we can see in both the cases. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Zumairuddin Khan for presenting the current scenario.
Yes, the same situation had happened just about 2 years ago. We all were in the offline mode, like in schools, offices, etc. But when an epidemic due to COVID has happened, then we all were forced to perform our tasks in the online mode due to the unfortunate situations. This was a huge change in the world for all, like students, teachers, employees, managers, and so many others. It is very difficult in the starting that there were so many people who don't like the online mode because of so many reasons, like they didn't know how to use computer technology. They thought that the offline mode was much better than the online mode. They thought that online mode is nothing, and especially in the case of education. So but when the online mode became the need of the hour confronting the present situation, then it was accepted by almost everyone, either by heart or under pressures. So, whenever there is a change, it becomes necessary that someone or the other will definitely present for its resistance. Now, I would like to invite Hamad for the conclusion.
Thank you, Zumair. Now, after having a deep insight of the case, if we talk about information technology, it plays a crucial role in an organization. It improves agility, staff coordination. It also leads to automation and increased revenue stream. It provides data security and better storage solutions with great customer satisfaction. Company decided to implement new information technology system to improve efficiency, but it faced resistance. As a result, being involved in change process for so long, they remain inefficient and their customers were unsatisfied. Here, the question arises that is resistance associated with every change? So the answer is yes. If we take a look of concerned case, the change was magnificent, but it faced resistance. The reasons the reason is change initiated affects personnel engaged in an organization. The main concerns behind the resistance could be increase in workload, fear towards unknown, fear of being incompetent, threat to personal values and philosophy, threat of possible change in the status, peer recognition in cases of incompetencies by employees. Now, I would also like to say that it is not a change which is that important, but implementation is. For successful implementation of change, resistance should be minimized. Management team should consider following aspects to minimize resistance. The first one is management should expect resistance beforehand and must be prepared for it. The second is objectives and goals must be predetermined. The third is a strategic approach should be followed for implementation of the change. The fourth is coordination among all levels of management, including employees, must be ensured. And the final is all the necessary steps must be taken to engage employees at all levels of management, which includes awareness drives, training programs, incentivizing them in monetary and non-monetary forms. Now, coming to the reasons for failure of change process is also a lack of mobilizing attitudes towards the change and also overemphasizing the virtues of pure execution skills. To support this statement, I would like to quote a French quotation which states, "If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to go to the forest, to get the woods, saw it, and nail the planks together. Instead, teach them the desire for the sea." And further adding on to it, I would also like to say that a mild degree of positive resistance is essential as it helps in overcoming the loopholes of the change and also it ensures the implementation effectively. With this, I wind up our presentation and extend a warm thanks to all the listeners for giving their precious time. Thank you. And I would also like to invite questions from the audience.
Thank you so much, you people. It was a really nice presentation. Ma'am, can I ask questions? Or a question from someone?
Yes, sure. Please
Sure,
go ahead, Anand.
thank you, sir. So I have a question for Raza. Raza, are you listening?
Yes. Sure,
Okay,
Anam.
so you talked about on-the-job training, right? So what
Yes.
exactly is involved in on-the-job training? Can you please elaborate in a layman language? What is it?
Okay. Thank you so much, Anam, for the question. So basically, on the job training is a form of training where the employees are trained at their workplace. They are familiarized with the working environment, with the tools, machineries on which they are supposed to work, and along with that, they are also familiarized with their superiors and subordinates. So this is the on-the-job training. And if we are talking about the methods, then we can say that promotion, transfer, apprenticeship training, and like internships also can be considered as on the job training.
So, can you also involve people belonging to older generations? Like, can they also be a part of this on-the-job training? Do you believe that?
Basically, the existing competent employees are enrolled for that purpose, are appointed for that sake. And as we all know that as older the employee will get, the more experience he or she has. So yeah, older employees are more prone to provide on-the-job training.
Okay, thank you so much, Rosa.
Okay, thank you.
My question is for Anamika. That's okay. Can I ask?
Who's asking? Okay, mine. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Anamika, you mentioned about collective bargaining. How will you explain that in a layman language or to us in order to explain?
Thank you, mine. Collective bargaining means that that the people who are working in an organization, they should not fight over the profit sharing or over the salary issues when there is such a situation of urgency, when your company is going to bankrupt in some time. Then at that time you should always think about the company's benefit, because if the company exists, only then you can be able to get your salaries or other things which you are getting before. So collective bargaining includes thinking about the company's benefit and listening to what the managers are suggesting, because they at the time of bankruptcy or any other such situation, the managers sometimes decide to reduce the number of workers from the company so as to reduce the expenses. So in that case, the union plays a very important role, because the union leader, he is responsible for all the other people who are working in their company. So collective bargaining, the union leader provides them the assurance that they should not create a chaos regarding all those things, and they should always they all should wait for the company's response.
Okay, so there was a term like a negotiating contract. How will you explain that in collective bargaining?
Negotiate contract.
Am I allowed to answer this question?
Yes, you can.
Anyone can, if you'll ask me.
See, these questions are for the group on the whole. Reza, you may answer. If you know the answer, you may please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So, negotiating contract, what mine said is the contract which an employer and the representative of the employees of a particular trade unions agreed upon in order to discuss the terms of employment, like what would be the salary, what would be the working conditions, and like that. All these terms are assembled in a contract in a written form, basically, and this is what we called as the negotiating contract.
I want to add here.
Yeah, sure.
See, it's already in the KRAs, and whenever employees joining a company, there's a KRA which has been given to them that you have to do certain job, and this is the remuneration you are going to get. So if we are negotiating, actually we are renegotiating these contracts. If some change has happened in the process, so we are renegotiating these terms. Okay, these additions have been given to us in terms of responsibility, then we want these remuneration added to our salaries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. But I have one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, please go ahead.
Okay, so in that case, the company will be benefited. How will it benefit the employees of the company? Like in the case of Lufthansa?
No, I can answer this question. So
Anyone
when
can
we
take.
came to Lufthansa, so the management was very much active from the very beginning of the case. When you would read the Lufthansa case, the management were very much aware of this fact that how they are going to deal with their employees and how they are going to deal with the union. So the union and the management both were very active and supportive at the same time. So they were exactly knowing that how how are they going to deal with this thing of negotiating, and they have come across the cost concession and the wage concessions, and there is this table also that they were following a table, they were following a formula of 20% cutting in a year. So that was the case, and I guess I hope I am able to clear your doubts, mine. So it
Thank
was
you.
related to the management, and they were very efficient when it came to Lufthansa. That's why it
Thank
was a
you.
successful.
So I have one more question, if that's not a problem. Shall I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
So, who like somebody mentioned about strategic approach? Who was that person?
Yes, I
Yeah, it
mentioned
was mine.
the strategic approach.
Actually, like anyone can answer this. So, so what exactly? Like, for example, we all know when we talk about strategic approach, we're talking about certain strategies, right? So, what is a
Yes.
strategic approach in a layman language, and what all includes in it in terms of business? Did you get my question?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Zubaiba, you would like to answer or should I?
Yes, bhai, give the answer, please.
Yeah, of course. See, a strategy approach, it is a way of planning and planning for a long term, considering all the seen and unseen things which are going to happen in future. So that there is something in hand and something which is coming to us. So we have to make plan accordingly to sustain and to be successful in future as well. In terms of business, there are many approaches. Like there could be change in government policy, there could be change in international scenario. Like nobody have known. If you talk about present scenario, there's a war going on between Russia and Ukraine. Both are economic giants. They are having a good amount of business with Europe. No one has expected there going to be a war in Europe. So supply chain has been disturbed. So if some countries have made their business plans strategically, that if they have this disruption happening in their supply chain, they are going to contact the next supplier. So these things comes under the domain of strategic planning. So there are all domains like in any business there are various departments like the supply chain department, their HR department, their IT department, there can be finance department. So in this world of global connectivity, everyone is connected. We have to take all the option open. We have to make sure that all the options we have considered before putting a plan, we should have an alternate to it. This is what strategic planning is. I hope
I
you
I
I
would
answered.
like I would like to add, if we talk about layman language, a strategic approach differs from situations to situations because if we take a particular strategy, it will not suit in every situation. So the main thing is that must be clear in our mind is what we are going to implement, why we are going to implement, by whom it is to be implemented, and what all stages are being involved in that process are the main concerns of the strategies. And keeping in mind these things, we should prepare a strategy because it differs from situations to situations. Am I
Yes, yes, I got the answer. Thank you so
able to
much,
clear
Hamad
the doubt?
and Yasir. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So anybody has any other question, or should I ask my question?
Yes, sir. I would like to raise another question. Somebody has just mentioned KRA as far I can understand, K responsibility area. Who's that person? I just want to a clarification for KRA as well as KPI. If anyone can elaborate KRA and KPI. Somebody has just mentioned.
Yeah, actually I mentioned KRA.
Okay, okay. Can you please elaborate?
It's a key responsibility area whenever this job opening is been posted. There's a job title, there's a job description. In that job description, KRAs are mentioned that you are expected to do all these jobs, say 4 jobs. Means you will be coming at on time, you will be attending the meeting, you will be presenting, you will be doing your work, and at the end, you will be presenting the report. So I have given some examples which may be relevant, may not be relevant, but this is what KRA is. It is mentioned in the job title, job description. I hope you answered the question.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay, so I now have two questions regarding the design of the PPT. First is, why did you people keep the key takeaway slide before conclusion? I mean, when I think a girl was presenting the key takeaway slides, and I thought that that was the end of the slides. So whose idea was it to keep key takeaways before the conclusion? It should always be the last slide, key takeaways.
It comes
Okay,
after
sir.
your conclusion.
Sure, sir. This
Sure,
was a
sir.
collective decision, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
We'll
Now,
take care of it.
Okay, sir.
can you please come to the slide where there is a comparison done for you, Lufthansa? You have done a comparison between Lufthansa.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
To that slide.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this one. Yes, yes. So the first time, make a comparison between Lufthansa and your case. To whom is this you're referring to? To whom?
So the case that we have provided with the Bacola case.
Is this the right way to write that your case? Just doesn't it sound a little of in the offensive sort of tone? Your case.
Sir,
it should be our case. You are presenting this case, not yours.
Sir, this question was in the case study only. The question you are talking about.
Okay, but you have to write in our case, because
Sir, I have written our case in our answer. Sir, after going.
That is where that is why I only asked for this slide, because only in this slide you have made this mistake. Otherwise, I have no no opposition for that.
Sir, actually, this was the questions that we have taken from the case study only.
Then it's fine. Then it's fine.
Taskin, just run through each of the slides very fast, one by one.
Okay.
Whoever is sharing the slides.
Yeah, Zoma.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Just from run through all the slides one by one. But only we have to tell them that. Okay. Okay, fine. Just one for resisting change to any technological change. Just one factor which is very important to you, which comes to your mind. Yes, Hamad.
Ma'am, please repeat the question.
For there is always resistance to change whenever there
Yes,
is
ma'am.
a technological shift, right? In an
Yes, ma'am.
organization. One factor
ma'am.
which you think is very important to manage this resistance. Just one factor, Hamad.
If we talk about the major factor which is very difficult to handle, that is
No, there will be resistance. Let's assume there will be
Yes, ma'am.
resistance. Now, what
Yes, ma'am.
strategy you would adopt? Any one factor which comes to mind. I could do this to tide the change, to stop the resistance or mellow down the
Yes, ma'am.
resistance. Any
Yes,
one
ma'am. Yes,
factor.
ma'am. Then the one factor which should be followed is that you should change the mindset of the personnel engaged in that change. Instead of forcing them to do this, you just show them the achievements which are being occupied by them after the change. So that is the main thing, that we should change the mindset of the personnel engaged in that change.
Any other factor anybody can say? Riza,
Yes,
Taskin.
ma'am.
Yeah, actually, ma'am,
Adding on to it. Yasir, do
yeah,
you want to say or I'll?
you may continue. You may continue.
Anybody, just.
So, ma'am, as according to me, proper communication of the change, like what is there in the change, why it is needed, and what are the benefits.
I'm happy. Now it was a good presentation. We are
Thank you
just
so much.
left
Thank you,
with
ma'am.
one group. We'll take the presentation on Friday. Okay. Then you have another series of presentation coming from 11th onwards. I'll send you the topics.
Okay.
It was good. I will give you the feedback only on Friday now. Now that we have spilled over, we have to take up a presentation on Friday. I will give you the feedback on Friday. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.